It's time to get the comic book retrospective crew back together, and we're hitting the Doom Patrol, the world's strangest heroes once again. Love this team. Love going back to the Silver Age. We're going to hit Doom Patrol number 92, The Sinister Secret of Dr. Tyme from December 1964. Arnold Drake, Bruno Premiani, and here with me as always is award-winning comic book editor, writer Joe Corallo. How you doing, Joe?
I'm all right, Wes. How are you?
I'm doing great. We've also got a man that's been reading comic books longer than I've been alive, and I'm not a young man. Eric Breed is a lifelong comic book reader. He's the voice of the voiceless. He's a man so cool they call him the Breed. How you doing, Eric Breed?
Well, I'm glad I got a chance to read this because when it came out, I was 2 and was only able to look at the pictures.
So this is a pretty cool team, Joe. We've talked about the Doom Patrol here. I think it's great. You know, we're talking about Arnold Drake. He is such an interesting creator. You know, a lot of people go out there and they make Superman and Captain America, and he always did the weirdest superheroes. Obviously, he's done the Doom Patrol, the weirdest heroes that you could find. He also did, I believe, Dead Man. He also did the Guardians of the Galaxy when they were very strange. It felt like that was kind of his calling card as a creator, is just doing the weirdest heroes he could possibly make.
Yeah, and the X-Men, which was a team that he did feel that Stan may have lifted a bit more generously from than originally anticipated. But he wrote X-Men for a little bit before Roy Thomas. I want to say is when he was writing X-Men, and then and of course he also arguably wrote the first graphic novel with It Rhymes with Lust.
Yeah, so he's a very important comic book creator, and if you like the strangest heroes that you can get your hands on, there's a good chance that Arnold Drake is a part of that. And I love visiting this era of comic books, Breen, because we're in this transition period. Marvel is coming up, you know, the Fantastic Four has come out and stuff, but they aren't quite Marvel that we know today, and DC Comics is still kind of ruling the roost at this point in time, at least as the comic book market goes.
Yeah, but you can tell that Marvel was doing something revolutionary because they just felt different. And you could tell that almost from day one. DC didn't have a lot of books that had that feel. Doom Patrol was one of them. If you could say this in 1964, Doom Patrol read more like a Marvel book than a DC book.
Certainly had a lot of the hallmarks and characteristics that Marvel would be kind of known for the next 10, 20 years, Joe.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, we'll get into it, but pretty much right off the bat, this found family is arguing like a pretty fantastic family that some of you may be familiar with.
Doom Patrol 92 opens up with this fantastic scene. This is the first appearance of Dr. Tyme. It was going to be a great villain. We'll get into that, but it opens up and it turns out somehow this couple misplaced their baby inside of a bank, and the baby crawled into this ginormous bank vault. So it's like $100,000 safe that the baby is sitting behind, and they've called in the Doom Patrol to kind of help out. At the beginning, we're definitely seeing some arguments between Negative Man and Elastigirl Breed. They head over there, and they've got to break into this bank and open it up and save the baby.
Jealousy rearing its ugly head because apparently Rita had gone out with Steve Dayton, and Larry, of course, is sweet on her, but he's got a hideous face under those bandages, so he does what happens in those situations. He starts snapping at her through no fault of hers, and they kind of have to table that because apparently a 2-year-old was able to crawl past security, get into a vault that looks like the Kingpin's vault from Spider-Man, and pull it in after him.
Oh, I think the vault was on a timer and it just closed on the baby once he got in there.
Well, I prefer to think that the baby closed it. It makes for
the baby did it himself. They really oiled that vault door up. It was just able to move it.
and if you're a fan of Silver Age Superman, this has got to be the 4th or 5th baby stuck in a vault probably that day in the DC universe.
And where was Superman?
It was great that they saved the baby, but, Negative Man almost bites the dust here, Joe. He goes in there. He somehow gets electrocuted when he's trying to open it up. And if he doesn't return to his physical body within 60 seconds, all hell could break loose. So Elastigirl has to shrink down, go inside the vault herself, and not only save the baby, now she's saving Negative Man, but she does come out in the end and save the day. And, it was a nice little moment. I did appreciate that Negative Man decided to take that opportunity to talk a little bit of smack on the guy that he's kind of competing with. I think his name is Mento. And be like, you didn't want to date that guy anyway. He's a bum. And then we see probably one of the biggest cock blocks in comic book history here, Breed. Robot Man decides to break into Mento's business and tell him, if you don't take Rita out, I'm going to pummel you and potentially murder you over this. You better take my gal friend out, who my other best friend is in love with. What a major league dill hole.
That's the thing. This is not your typical DC kumbaya gathering of heroes. And it also, I mentioned, Steve Dayton is arguably the world's richest man also.
He's the 5th richest man, they said in this comic book.
But by the time the Teen Titans rolled around in the Wolfman era, I think he'd ascended to number 1. Because Gar Logan once said his bedroom and the kitchen were in different time zones. So, I mean, so not only is he competing against, at this time, the 5th richest man, who has a face he can show, his so-called best friend is arranging a date between the girl he loves and another man. Yes, with friends like these, huh?
Exactly. I couldn't believe he would just go there and screw his buddy like this, Joe. Like, not cool, man. That is a bad wingman.
It's crazy. It's got I mean, these are team members that are not calling each other chum.
And then we get the big introduction. We see Dr. Tyme is doing experiments using his 4 times time beams, which apparently slows everything down 4 times. He's dropping like bowling balls, and they're dropping slower than feathers. And I think he's doing something with a cat and everything. He figures out he's perfected the technology, and he decides, Joe, to take it onto a plane. And he ends up stealing, I think, a bunch of money after making everyone go slow. And then they're noticing things outside are going fast. And he's got this time beam, which is very, very destructive.
I love, sir, when he jumps out of the plane and he uses that beam so he doesn't need a parachute and he slows down time enough so he's descending slow enough where he's not going to get hurt. I think that's so cool and innovative, like to think of something like that to do. And it's just this cute, like, one-off thing that happens in, like, one not particularly large panel or anything. And that's some of, like, the ingenuity and creativity you kind of miss in some of these comics.
So we got the big show-off of what Dr. Tyme can do. Then we get back to the story, Breed. It turns out Robot Man lets Rita know, you have a date tonight. You're going out with Mento. And they're going out on a date, and they're having a nice time. He tells her he had a great time, and he's like, I'm glad Robot Man forced me into this. And she's like, I've never been so embarrassed in my life. And they're kind of going back and forth. And Dr. Tyme at the exact same time is robbing a bank, and he's running away, and they have to jump into their superhero egos to go in there and try and stop him.
Rita, she shrinks out of the fur. Good thing I'm wearing my uniform underneath.
That was a beautifully illustrated action scene, by the way, just really showing how small she was getting. And she's like at this tiny head inside of a fur coat.
And apparently Dr. Tyme at this point wasn't settled into his career as a supervillain enough to have a getaway driver. So he has to be his own getaway driver. The 3-inch Rita stows away on the getaway car. He goes back to his lair that I believe he borrowed from the Clock King.
Well, I think it's an abandoned castle, right?
Yes,
it is an abandoned castle, but also I love the eyebrows are the arrow, or the arrows on the clock. The mouth is made up of the gears that are turning in it, and at the bottom of page 10, there's a 3-panel bit where you see him he's getting shot at, and he's using the ray to slow the bullets to walk past him. And again, that's it's great. It's a great little scene. It's a great 3-panel, bit of action that really demonstrates to you how powerful he is.
Yeah, really, really cool stuff going on here. And then we end up having this conversation. I believe Robot Man and maybe Negative Man are arguing a bit because he finds out that he basically set her up on a date. But then Mento contacts them and is like, hey, listen, I haven't seen Rita since this happened. This dude was like changing time, and they had some ideas, maybe what was going on. Maybe it's an illusion kind of stuff going on. But obviously the chief figures it out pretty quick, Joe.
That all gets figured out, and they have to, they're going to have to go stop this guy in this castle that was imported from Europe by an eccentric millionaire who lost interest in it before it was completed.
How do you import a castle from Europe? That would be so expensive.
It is very expensive. I've been to the Cloister Museum in Manhattan, and that's like partially like all imported, like castle and churches and stuff like that. It's really cool. But yeah, it's expensive.
And it turns out he accidentally activated his device and took 4 times as long.
Probably, Bree. But while this is all going on, he figures out that Elastigirl is there in her miniaturized size, and she accidentally hits one of these clocks. He's got 600 clocks in this damn house, as he's kind of moving around. He's obviously crazy, and he gets her, and he like stows her inside of a clock that just like got this gong, this pendulum that's going back and forth and going boom, 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 and driving her insane. She's going to end up dying from insanity before he even kills her.
They're not going to be able to go save her without Mento. He's really adamant about going with them.
Yeah, he wants to save his gal. He wants to do something good for her. He doesn't want to see old Negative Man get the leg up. They jump in the Doom Patrol mobile or something. It's this weird greed car that I think Chief is super souped up or something. They go to the damn castle, and wouldn't you know it, as soon as they get there, they trip an alarm, and there's a moat of fire. Very comic booky, Breed.
Yeah, but we can't gloss over the Doom Patrol mobile. Because I said, if you've read enough DC Silver Age comics, one of the best, I don't know if trope is the right word, but all these DC comics had these weird looking vehicles, and Mento calls it a plumber's nightmare. And they get in, they speed off, and he goes, I take it back. This is the coolest vehicle I've ever been in. So, but like I said, that's that had to get mentioned. And now they get to the castle and climbing up the drawbridge, and then when a guy can speed up and slow down time, the results are predictable.
Yeah, he's got some spikes underneath him. Looks like they're all about to be impaled. Thankfully, Negative Man is able to save him and kind of get him in there. And then they take the spikes, and somehow Robot Man elongates them, I guess, and makes a ladder out of it, which I thought was quite ingenious. So they're able to get into the castle. They're able to, finally confront Dr. Tyme, Joe. Negative Man is told by the Chief, do not bring out Negative Man. You need to stay in your physical persona. If you cannot do it under any circumstances, and they start fighting everything, and it's not going very well for them. He's using his powers, and he busts out Negative Man anyway.
This story's divided up into 3 parts, and I have to point out that we're in the final part 3, the clocks of death. Sure. Yeah, but no, it's cool. You're just seeing all sorts of colors and beams flying all over the place. Dr. Tyme's all like, I'm going to use my beam to age this chandelier so it falls on you.
Yeah, because he can speed up time too.
Yeah. Pretty crazy.
Well, you couldn't sell that device for any kind of money if it only worked one way.
It's only smart.
And granted, he can age that chandelier. He can't shoot them with it and age them until they die. But
maybe it doesn't work on anything organic.
Yeah, well then you could at least dismantle Robot Man with it.
As all this is happening, we do see Rita. She is not just a damsel in distress. She's actually removed the pendulum from the clock, and then she's breaking herself out. And at the same damn time, Breed, Negative Man comes out, and he gets thrown into the 4 times beam. And they're like, oh, no, he's never going to get back to his body within the 60 seconds, and something very bad is going to happen. But they do get the drop on Dr. Tyme, and they force him to put Negative Man's body in the same 4 times beam. So that way, time goes slow for the body itself as well as the Negative Man spirit. And eventually, he'll be able to get there within the 60 seconds. So they kind of solve that matter. He kind of escapes, and they throw a gas bomb at him, and they accidentally gas Rita.
In her giant form now.
No one can pick that woman up when she's that big.
Well, that's true, because which is kind of fair, because everybody seems to be able to pick her up when she's normal size.
Oh my goodness, Bree!
Yeah, I went there.
You misogynist.
So they do that, and he goes, "Okay, well, yeah, sure, I'm beat, but I just happened to plant a bomb in one of these 600 clocks. So you've got to get your teammate out, shrink Rita. I'll just be, making my getaway exit stage right. They can't shrink her, but Mento can, because he can implant idea in her head to shrink even when she's unconscious. So that's how they're able to pull it all together. They save Larry, they save Rita. Of course, the bad guy gets away. I've talked about this in Silver Age, is just full of stories like this. You turn to the last page, which isn't even a full page, and the story hasn't resolved itself, and you basically get to the resolution, and then a one-panel wrap-up.
No wasted space here, Joe. It's a very exciting, well-paced comic book, and you got all this stuff happening behind the scenes that you know is going to keep playing out as time goes on. You know, with the rivalry between Larry, we got in Minto, we've got the Rita thing that's going on, and you know, Robot Man seems to be kind of a jerk, but maybe he's being nicer now.
Yeah, you know, it's they're all growing as a team, and in the not too distant future, you know, some spoilers here, you know, Rita and Steve really hit it off. So you do see these sort of, you know, evolutions in the character and the team dynamic.
Yeah, so this is a really great one, Joe. I appreciate for recommending this one. We're going to go to, are we doing Black Panther next week?
Yeah, we're going to do Jungle Action 6, the, you know, the first solo, you know, Black Panther adventure. And there's a lot of interesting creators involved there. There's an upcoming, you know, an up-and-coming inker people might recognize, Klaus Janson, who did a little work on that book. You know, he would end up going on and doing some other things, but yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a career. So this is a lot of fun. We'll see you next week with Black Panther. This isn't the only time we've talked about the Doom Patrol on the comic book retrospective. In fact, the last time we covered issues 85 through 90. So pretty much all the precursors to this issue. Definitely check this out. A lot of fun stuff with the Doom Patrol. If you haven't seen these guys from the Silver Age, you're absolutely missing out. Check this out.